This game is not good. I've been looking at the reviews on Steam, and as of this recording, it has a 97% positive rating, and I have no clue how it maintains that average. I see people with this game and they put in over like 40 hours, whereas I've put in about 6, and I don't think you could get me to load the game again unless you promise me money or a hand. I think a lot of people only make it to the visual aspect of this game, and then their brains just kind of shut off. And I'll be honest, the imagery is super creepy and evoking. The one-pit art style is of course very simple, but that leads to the really creepy imagery that it can create. Whoever did the artistry really does deserve praise for this game, because they did a good job. So add to this a creepy soundtrack that only sometimes becomes a numbing, mind-throbbing noise explosion. A trip to the library might be a good idea. Can I change this? That is so annoying. And you've got yourself the building blocks for what could be a really good game. Here's the problem. The game itself is boring as hell. You can't take a picture from Junji Ito, shake it around a bit to give the impression of animation, then offer the player 1 or 2 choices that'll have no consequence on the story itself, and then call that a game. So World of Horror bills itself as a survival horror roguelike. But the best you could say is that it's kind of like a roguelike, as you take the role of one of 5 random generated characters whose goal is to solve a bunch of mysteries to stop an ancient god from coming back and destroying the world, or something ridiculous like that. However, due to the nature of the card system, the way that each mystery unfolds, it robs the player of any sense of autonomy or agency. I'm going to run through how the game works in general. I'm not going to pick apart every single option or mechanic, because I'm going to be honest, it would be torture, because this game bores the piss out of me, and there's a lot of stuff that doesn't even have any use. So here's how a basic game plays out. You select your game mode, and the unskippable opening plays out, informing you that your town of whatever in Japan has a cult problem, and you're there to solve mysteries around the town and stop their nefarious plan of summoning a god, who's chosen randomly each playthrough. You get a small bit of info about that god, but you never get any sense of how they're actually affecting anything in the world. You just get a random status effect, like not being able to run away from combat. Anyway, your main goal is to collect 5 keys that open the door to the lighthouse, which you seem confident is the epicenter of all the strange activity, and to ascend to the top and stop by clicking a thing. Are we too late? I don't know. Did you actually? Hey! Yay, we beat the game! To get those keys, you have to solve mysteries. For each mystery you solve, you get a key. You select mysteries from a corkboard in your house, which also serves as your base of operations. There, you can take a bath and regain a bit of health or sanity. Oh, no, I'm sorry, stamina or reason. Not sure why they didn't use the words that everyone knows, but here we are. Once you're ready to go, you select a mystery and you're now locked into that encounter until you either die, go insane, or finish it. There's no saving midstream to come back later when you have more clues or something, but don't worry, there's no actual clues to begin with anyway. So here's how a mystery tends to go down. You start it up and you get a bit of flavor text describing the mystery in general. You select a location to investigate, a word I'm adding air quotation marks to as hard as I can, and I don't care if you can't see me, from a list of options, and you go there. On the way, you'll get a random event or card. That card will usually have a couple of options, and depending on your stats and luck of the dice, it will resolve in a number of ways. The cards throw in a bit of flavor text, but don't have any actual relation to your mystery. It either resolves itself immediately, like here where I lost sanity for looking at the grass, or it'll give you a couple of options. These are basically skill checks, which failure or success will result in maybe some boost to experience or losing health and sanity. You'll have no idea what skill is being checked or your likelihood of success, so it's really just a coin toss. What's more often the case, though, is one of the options will be hidden behind an item or skill wall. If you happen to have the requisite item or skill for that random card, you can sometimes score better results. However, getting items is mostly random, though there is a store you can buy things if you ever have any money. After your random event, you'll go to your next story event, which is intended to push the story forward and tell you what to do next. You'll note that whatever happened before has absolutely no relation to what's happening now, and you'll never be mentioned ever. Anyway, you select the next location, go there, and get another random event card, which plays out much the same as before. Sometimes, instead of a card, you'll get an encounter. I'm not going to go into the combat system, but suffice to say, it's boring as hell. It's extremely repetitive, the bare minimum of animation, and much like the random events, these encounters almost always have no relation whatsoever to the story. Like here, I'm talking to some fisherman, then out of nowhere, a ghost on fire attacks me. And when I kill him and start talking to the fisherman again, it's not mentioned at all. So are we just going to ignore the ghost that, I must mention again, was on fire? Okay, fine, whatever. Was this related to the mystery of inky ooze from the ocean or whatever I'm doing now? No, of course it's not. It's just a random encounter. In some maps, you'll have to travel through a forest looking for things, but this is essentially the same as any movement you did before. Click tree, get random card, repeat until the game decides you've had enough. This whole process repeats for a while. You're not actually involved in solving any sort of mystery, obviously. You're just clicking locations and going, and there's flavor text you can read to see how it's going. But it's really unnecessary, as you don't need a single iota of the information presented, and it usually doesn't make any sense anyway. So what happens is you get into this tunnel vision where you only look at the options for your card, click it, then read the results and move on. You start disregarding everything story related and what is ostensibly supposed to be all about story of cults and ancient gods. Finally, you'll usually come to some final boss encounter for that mystery. Depending on the items you have or the random cards you've received, you'll sometimes have options to fight different versions of this boss, but it's really all up to chance. You just have to hope the stars aligned and the RNG worked out in such a way that you have the items you need, or met the people you needed to, or got the random card you needed. Or sometimes you have to make a final choice, but again, the options are totally reliant on the random encounters you had before. I know you can buy items as well, but again, you're hoping that 1, the shop has the item you want, and 2, you have the funds for it, which you'll accrue again randomly. Are you seeing a pattern here? Everything is so random and so removed from every other part of the story. It's like if you took a bunch of comic books, cut out a bunch of panels, and then strung them out in a line. I mean, sure, you could maybe come up with some plausible story that interconnects them, but you're not going to be invested in it because you know it's just random shit strung together. Here's another problem. For a game that wants to tout itself as solving mysteries, you don't do a damn bit of investigation. You never solve anything. You either have whatever item that particular mystery needs, or you don't. And it's not like you can start with another mystery and go back to try again once you have more items. All this game does is offer the most bland of A-B choices that do not impact the story whatsoever and require zero cognitive ability from the player. Maybe you make your skill check so you get ending A, or you found a random item that gives you ending C. Who knows? Who cares? How is this fun for anyone? At least in other roguelikes, it has a combat loop to keep you occupied, or requires you to deal with resources so you can survive another night. World of Horror offers nothing. It has a bunch of flavor text you'll immediately skip, along with a sometimes mildly creepy picture that has no relation to what you're doing 5 minutes ago or what you'll do next. Everything is so divorced from each other, you can't get into the story. And because you can't get into the story, all you have left is the gameplay, which is boring as snot. People also keep tripping over themselves trying to talk about how this game is Lovecraftian or reminds them of H.P. Lovecraft. And you can't just slap the ancient god on something and say, oh, now it's Lovecraft. You know, this game really wants to tap into that fan base, but it doesn't do anything to raise the cosmic dread or existential fear that is related to Lovecraft. Maybe I just don't see the appeal of these types of games. And if this is your type of game, more power to you. And I get that random events are part of the roguelike experience. But once you get past the occasional creepy image and spooky music, all you're left with is a soulless, empty husk of a game that sits in the Stygian desert of the Steam library, waiting in a deathless sleep to drag you down into the void and force you to flip a coin to see every flavor text and every little ending that no one will ever care about and will soon be lost to the abyss of time. So I guess in that way it's a bit Lovecraftian. Thanks for sticking around to the end of my video. I streamed all the footage you've seen here on my Twitch at twitch.tv/Arstavial. You can also follow me on Twitter and tweet at me about how my opinions suck. Hope to see you in the next video.